Hey there, friend. Welcome back. Today we're talking about someone you've absolutely heard of, but trust me, his story is way more incredible than just a face on a piece of currency. Meet Abraham Lincoln. He's the boy from a log cabin who became one of the greatest leaders the world has ever seen. Now don't worry, this isn't going to be some boring, stuffy history lesson. No way. This is a story about failure, hope, and never, ever giving up. So are you ready? Okay, let's dive into this. When you think of Abraham Lincoln, what pops into your head? For most of us, it's just that static, stoic face staring right back at us from a shiny penny or a crinkled $5 bill, right? We see him carved in stone on Mount Rushmore or sitting endlessly in that massive marble chair in Washington, D.C. But who is the actual guy behind the famous beard and the tall hat? To truly get him, we've got to look way past the money and the monuments and travel back to a time when he literally had nothing. Section 1. A Log Cabin Star. The extreme underdog origins of a future president. Picture this. It's February 12, 1809, in a freezing cold, one-room log cabin in Kentucky, and a baby named Abraham is born into extreme poverty. And when I say extreme, I mean it. Young Abe had less than 1 year of formal schooling in his entire life. Just think about that for a second. 1 single year of actually sitting in a classroom. That is a massive educational deficit. I mean, for most people, that would absolutely stop them right in their tracks and completely limit their future. But, well, Lincoln was wired a little differently. He didn't have wealth or advantages or a fancy education. What he had was hunger, just a sheer insatiable hunger to learn and to grow. He loved books more than some kids love video games today. He would literally walk miles just to borrow books from his neighbors. Then he'd stay up super late reading by the dim flicker of candlelight. He entirely taught himself. It just goes to show, you don't always need the best resources. Sometimes you just need relentless drive. Moving on to Section 2. Honest Abe's Hard Road. Working hard, messing up, and building integrity. As a young man, Abe worked pretty much every odd job you can imagine just to survive. First, he was splitting heavy logs for fences. That's actually where he got the famous nickname, the Rail Splitter. Then he spent some time working at a general store, and later on, he delivered mail. Now, he was tall, incredibly strong, and had this brilliant, funny personality, so people liked him immediately. But despite all that charm, life knocked him down, hard and often. He lost jobs, his store completely failed, and he even suffered a nervous breakdown. But in a world where taking the easy shortcut is kind of the standard, Lincoln was the real deal. He taught himself law, no college degree, no fancy mentor, just his own grit and late nights with borrowed books. And he soon earned another nickname, Honest Abe. Why? Well, once, while working at a store, a client accidentally overpaid him by just a few pennies. Lincoln didn't just pocket the change. He walked miles to return that exact money. No shortcuts, no lies, just unshakable integrity. So, the crucial thing here is how he responded to all this relentless adversity. His life reads like a masterclass in failing forward. He ran for office and lost. His store failed. Tragically, his sweetheart died, which plunged him into a deep depression, or melancholy, as they called it back then. He ran for the U.S. Senate and lost again. Seriously, most people would have thrown in the towel, but Lincoln kept going. Why? Because he believed in something way bigger than himself. He believed all people deserve freedom. And those 1858 Senate debates with Stephen Douglas, even though he lost the election, they made him famous nationwide. Which brings us to Section 3. The hardest job, from election to the bloodiest war in American history. All of those failures, all of that preparation, led up to this monumental moment. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln is elected the 16th President of the United States. But it wasn't exactly a celebration. The moment he won, the country began breaking apart. Southern states declared they were leaving, and just like that, the Civil War began. It became the bloodiest, most horrific war in American history. Brothers literally fighting brothers. Entire families torn apart. Amidst this unimaginable chaos, Lincoln had one singular, driving mission right from the start: save the Union. And this brilliantly illustrates the turning point of his presidency, and really, the country. On January 1st, 1863, Lincoln did something truly massive. He signed the Emancipation Proclamation, officially declaring enslaved people in the Confederate States to be free. By signing this, Lincoln fundamentally changed the entire purpose of the war. It wasn't just about saving a broken country anymore, it transformed into a desperate, righteous fight for fundamental human dignity. Later that same year, Lincoln gave a speech in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. What's wild is that it was incredibly short, only about 2 minutes long. In fact, some people in the crowd back then didn't even clap because it was over so fast. But he wrote it entirely himself. No speechwriter, just a man who deeply loved words. And he ended it with these immortal words: "Government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth." Today, it stands as one of the most famous speeches in human history. Section 4. A lasting legacy, a tragic end, and an immortal spirit. There's a really heartbreaking contrast between these next two dates. On April 9, 1865, the horrific Civil War finally ended. The Union was miraculously saved, and slavery was abolished. Lincoln's lifelong dream had actually become a reality. But a mere 5 days later, on April 14th, while attending a play with his wife at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., a man named John Wilkes Booth crept up from behind and shot the president. The very next morning, Abraham Lincoln passed away. He was only 56 years old. The entire country was left weeping. He had given absolutely everything he had, enduring public ridicule, crushing depression, and ultimately sacrificing his very life so that the nation could experience freedom and unity. So, why do we still talk about Abraham Lincoln with such reverence today? His true legacy really comes down to this: he never gave up. He lost elections, he lost loved ones, he lost businesses, but he never lost his heart. He proved to the world that where you start does not decide where you end. This was a spectacularly poor boy in a dirt-floor log cabin who grew up to quite literally change the world. You can see his powerful spirit alive today in anyone who stands up to fight for justice, for kindness, and for truth. And you know, if he can change the world, so can you. I want to leave you with this final provocative question. How will you fail forward today? The next time you experience a setback, or the next time you feel like you've totally failed, I really want you to remember Abe. He failed more times than most of us ever will, but he won in the end because he refused to quit. Thanks for hanging out with me today for this explainer. If you found this story as inspiring as I do, please give this explainer a thumbs up, share it with a friend who might need a little motivation right now, and be sure to subscribe for more deep dives. See you next time. Take care, friend.